Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the Blue Honor Vlog. I'm Kay Williams, author of op-dec Operation Deceit, the Trilokia trilogy, and Blue Honor, for which my vlog and my blog are named. Today, I'm going to go over, happy February, by the way, what is the greatest story ever told? My guts just wrench when I hear that question. You know, what a subjective thing. There is a faction of people who will say the story of Jesus is the greatest story ever told, except that it is adapted from Osiris and numerous other savior-type stories, mythologies, etc. that have come before it. So it is the hero's journey, tragic hero's journey, in a way. But to determine out of all of the books in the world, which one is the greatest, I mean, we have Mr. Tolkien hovering above me, and I'm like, it might be Lord of the Rings. I know how I feel about those stories. And I didn't fail myself in 2017 when I responded to this. I did say The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings series. My mom read them when she was pregnant for me. I've probably mentioned this before a million times. It's serious in our family, obviously, because I have Mr. Tolkien sitting here overseeing me as I work, which is incredible. Yeah, I've wanted that print for a long time, and I'm just glad that I put that there. I finally got it. As you know, Stephen Colbert used to be up there, the Colbert Report portrait. I had a poster of that because I was a huge fan of that show. Love that show. I love Stephen. He's great. Incredible comedian and satirist. Late night show host. Sad that he's gonna be gone. I don't really watch the Tonight Show too much, except in clips after it's already aired, because I'm exhausted by the time it would be on, and I also no longer have cable, so I would have to wait for it anyway after it's aired to see it through Hulu. And I just forget. There's so much going on. Sorry, Stephen. But in 2017, I answered, some people unfortunately still find Harry Potter to be one of the greatest stories they've ever read, despite all of J.K. Rowling's bigoted statements. And, of course, people still love the Bible. They love the stories from whatever faith that they may have. I like the story of Ganesh's creation. Incredible. And one of the best tellings of it was by a comedian. I can link that video because it is here on YouTube. I believe it's on YouTube. But I laughed. It's either YouTube or TikTok, but it was hilarious, and it is the best telling ever. Some people may respond Star Wars, I stated. Fantastic. George Lucas isn't one of the best writers. The novelizations took his material, but someone else wrote that. Carrie Fisher worked on the scripts to kind of clean them up and get them in order. Carrie Fisher's books could possibly be the best thing ever written. I promise I stand a lot. What Dreams May Come, one of my favorite films, is a book. Roger Rabbit is a book. There's all these adaptations that we see in film that are books. Either way, that's a story. And there's just dozens upon dozens, hundreds, and to land on which one was the best. I think that's a very difficult question. Quite subjective, because we each have our own ideas about what genres are the best, what we like the best, what appeals to us. It's all, very personal sort of things, because there's so much that goes into making us as people, and those intertexts as well that come in and feed how we look at things, how we interpret things, etc., how we find meaning. With intertext, can skew meaning quite a lot. So like I said at the outset of this video, that I get squeamish with Bible stories and people saying, oh, the story of Jesus is the greatest ever told. And that's to them. To me, all the intertexts cram in of witch burnings, the way that the Puritans treated one another, all the stuff through Europe, the Crusades and the Inquisition, and just the constant torture and torment that has come along with Christianity, Catholicism, or the other. And I'm just like, yeah, sure, Jesus is a great guy, very kind and stuff. The religion developed like almost 200 years after he was gone or whatever, and then King James and even Charlemagne before him, they all utilized the church as another form of power. So they used it as manipulation and control and another set of rules and laws in order to control the herd of people that they had power over. And the whole thing comes with all of that. It is inseparable to me. You mention it in all of this stuff, I'm going to go, yeah, but. And there's something that doesn't set well in me about it, whether it be the hypocrisy or the violence. It's just so problematic. And growing up, of course, I was preoccupied by a lot of mythology, all of these stories, and interested in them. The Bible itself is a pretty amazing, very long, epic poem, almost. It is an epic, like the Iliad and all of that, and it covers what would be several thousands of years of how the culture that created it, as you know, it is taken from Jewish texts. So that history, fabled, mythologized, it turned into a story, and not like the nonfiction history that we're quite used to, that you would pick up, like, say, on World War II. It really isn't the same. And I know that a lot of people are like, no, this is history, this is factual, and there's not a lot of support for that. You can find some things, because much like the fiction that I write, sorry, I'm very tired. Much like the fiction that I write, like op-dec, it follows a period of time during 1942 in the late spring, May, June. Bombing runs, this, that, and the other thing are factual. So there may be things within it that are factual, but that doesn't mean that every tiny grain is factual. And it was written down. It's kind of like the telephone game. they were orally told, and then they came to be written down, and, this one told it slightly different than this one. Who was right? And they're shared stories between different groups, and it just keeps getting recycled, and then this young person learns it from this teacher, and then they tell it, and it gets altered slightly, and so on, so on, so on. But not only that, then you take and you interpret it from the original language into, say, Greek, and then Italian, Roman, Latin, German, English, Spanish, all of that. There aren't always words for some of the ideas, whole ideas. Word to word interpretation, it's not exactly the same. It's not exactly the same, and cultures vary, and that has an impact on how things are understood. So, for instance, virgin meant unmarried. It had nothing to do with your beds having never been penetrated or penetrating. And people don't get that. That is like additionally a construct, culturally speaking. And it's a very weird and uncomfortable construct fomented by the church. It's just, which had a whole lineup of abuse as well. Let's get away from that, right? But that's what I'm talking about. It's like these ideas, they morph and they become other things. And they're slightly, they're adjacent. It's adjacent, because you think unmarried, well, then they've never had relations. Or have they? Let's be real. Let's be real. Sorry, Grandma and Grandpa did the skippity bop, okay? Get over it. Humans have done that forever. Forever, okay? Just something we need to learn to accept. It's so bizarre that we look at our ancestors and go, oh, no. Fine, upstanding people. They never got into any nonsense of the kind. Only within the parameters of what was allowed. And it's like, has anyone ever lived within the parameters of what was allowed? It's like, they're no different than us. No different. So that's hilarious. But really kind of a childish way of looking at things, don't you think? That they read this and it's like, oh, well, this meant that. Well, probably when you asked, you were like 7 and your mom didn't want to just, say, well, that means that they didn't get to the skippity bop. They didn't do this and they did. Your mom and dad probably didn't want to say things like that because that was uncomfortable for them, right? And is it appropriate to talk to your child about these topics? Yes, within reason. It is. And you should. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. The human body is not to be ashamed of, nor the functions, etc. You should just make them understand this isn't something that you just do. Please take it seriously. But we tend to get embarrassed and then use colloquialisms and idioms like our last episode to stand in for what we're trying to say because we're uncomfortable having to communicate the topic because we're taught to be ashamed of all of that stuff instead of being frank and truthful and just stating facts. God bless science for being I'm like, oh my God, just state it. Just state it. Why are we ashamed? And I can't say that I don't have shame when it comes to explaining and saying certain things. I have an 8-year-old and it's like, I don't know. I have to stop and go, she's 8. First of all, I don't want to freak her out with the answer. Secondly, I don't want to appear I'm giving permission. I don't want to create a curiosity, because if she's asking about something that could endanger her, you have to take care with that. It's like, you don't want to make it super attractive, but you also want to explain it to them and be fair and be like kind of nonchalant about it, to kind of just make it like whatever. And then hopefully they forget about it, right? But yeah, so words and their meanings, they are constantly morphing as they go through time. The way that your grandparents used a word is not the way that we use a word. They had a whole bunch of slang terms that they threw around that we would not use now. We would be like, okay, corny. We still do use corny quite a bit. At least I do. That's the best way that I can call something what we would call dumb, which is not like a great word. I just, the feeling that you have is it's corny. It's corny. You know what I mean? So words are constantly morphing and changing and updating. There's a lot of words that we use today that have dissimilar meanings to their foundations. Whether it's because of sarcasm and now we just use it in an opposite manner, they just change. So when you're talking about things that you're saying are fact, is it? Because things change. Of course, something that happened 2,000 years ago, and the thinking and the understanding and the behaviors of 2,000 years ago fit the climate and the needs of those people in that place and time. They don't necessarily fit today in our climate and place and time. We've learned a lot. We've grown a lot as human beings. So perhaps that is the greatest story ever told, is how humanity evolves, continues to evolve. You have a faction that is constantly wanting to drag us back. It's like the crab basket. And they're like trying to pull us down, like, no, get back here in this basket. We're not changing. Everything's going to stay the same. We're stuck here, and this is how it's going to be, instead of allowing that growth. But there's always the ones that escape the basket, and they create a new reality for themselves when they get out of it. And that's difficult and hard. And it's like, you can't go back after that. You know too much. You know what I mean? And it's like an amazing story of humanity, just from evolving up into what we are today. That alone is incredible. That's a really interesting story, and full of facts. Some things are missing, a lot to think about, a lot to fill in. That's why researchers keep going and keep finding things, which is incredible. I love hearing about all that stuff, ancestral species, etc., how interconnected we are. I like knowing that we are interconnected with our planet and other species, and that we're not just kind of alone. And as humanity is always looking outward from the planet, like, is there anybody else like us out there? It's like, well, you forget. Gorillas have learned to sign. Chimpanzees have learned to communicate in sign. Dogs understand language, and we're starting to understand more and more that right around us are other creatures and animals who understand us and want to communicate. May not have developed the same forms of communication, but live with us, among us, near us, and are different, but share this thing called life. That's an amazing story. So, animal cognition, I highly recommend Dr. Pepperberg's book about Alex the parrot. incredible story. So as you can tell from 2017 to now, there's been a lot going on in my life, a lot more considerations, a lot more that I think of as great story. It can be nonfiction as well as fiction. Some people might think that the most amazing story is the invention of different things like energy, like nuclear, the nuclear story and all of that. They're just fascinated by physics and chemistry and the interaction of atoms. Being able to drill down to those tiny particles, I think it is just incredible to think about spooky theory. That's it, spooky theory. And things like that in physics, and how particles interact, and maybe there's some explanation from these theories that could explain like weird phenomena and stuff that we experience out here, that we might, oh, that was like a ghost, or that was like something really weird. There is an explanation in that. We just don't know what it is, and that would be an interesting story as well. So, mundane before the magical, right? All right. So I will be back in March with another episode. Don't forget to subscribe before you go. Thank you for listening, and I will see you again soon. Thank you.